Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Zuzana Barinkova and I'm the product manager at Resco, currently mainly responsible for Resco Houston AR video calls, Houston product, and also Resco on Realware. So let me thank you for the chance to speak with you today about the latest innovations we've been working on in Q1. So today I'd like to talk about Houston video calls and the upcoming Houston knowledge application, which we are working on right now. So let me start with Houston AR video calls. Houston calls came to life last year after the customer research we've been doing, where we identified lots of problems related to lack of know-how, frequently rescheduled site visits, and also COVID-19 brought some other problems. So basically, Houston AR video calls are calls where the field technician or field worker comes up to a problem. He reaches out to a technician who remotely guides him by drawing AR annotations into his shared scene. It's currently available on iOS, Android, on Resco Cloud, MS Dynamics, and Salesforce, and it's also available on web for Resco Cloud. Just to let you know, it's available from any entity form, so you can access it from, let's say, contact form or a questionnaire form. Now, one of the first questions that you might be asking is, what problems are you solving me? And the main problem we are trying to address are downtimes and errors, because they cost companies lots of money. And these are very closely connected to the lack of know-how and expertise, which we identified during our research as being the biggest problem in manufacturing, at least for some countries. And the third problem was brought by COVID-19, so the necessity to support people remotely and to share knowledge remotely. And we believe that once the COVID is over, this need will still remain very relevant because many companies realize that they can work more effectively by working remotely, at least in some cases. What are the major benefits of Resco Houston? Well, it's definitely faster and cheaper issue solving. So the problem is solved right away without the need to schedule and the first time. It also causes less errors and downtimes. And by giving advice or instructions remotely, the experts save time traveling, and therefore they can cover more issues remotely. And we know that these experts are very precious and their time is precious. It also puts less stress on the frontline workers because especially the junior workers who do not have as much expertise and knowledge have always some help in the form of these AR video calls. And it also addresses the problem of aging of the field technicians. We know that this is a huge problem, especially in some industries where the generation of baby boomers will soon retire and the 20 or 30 years of experience will live with them. And the last, it also helps to overcome language barrier. We know that drawing is international, so everyone can understand drawing instructions comparing to, let's say, instructions over a standard phone. So why Resco Houston? Well, it's very easy to use within Resco application. So the field worker is going through his workflow, he comes up to a problem, and with one click away, he's in contact with a remote expert who can very quickly and easily guide him to fix the problem. So he doesn't need to go to another application and log in there. And this also brings another advantages, like it's integrated with other CRM data. So after every call, both parties have to fill in, they can fill in the phone call entity form. So who was on the call, what was the call about? And these data are taken from the CRM. And then the manager can build dashboard, let's say, on the top of this data on the backend and have an overview like what are the repeating issues, or maybe who are the repeating people who need assistance, and maybe where to focus on in training. We are also trying to make it available to as wide audience as possible. So we have it available on iOS, Android, and web. It works on Dynamics and Salesforce on mobile. And we are also trying to make it available on as many devices as possible. So mainly ruggedized Android devices such as Zebra, Caterpillar, or even Realware. And it can also be used in a combination with instructions. As you might know, our questionnaire designer can be used not only for inspection scenarios, but also for instructions. So a combination of instructions and remote video calls is a great helping combination to help the workers to overcome the day-to-day issues. Now, how it looks and works. Based on the research, we try to focus on simplicity, because the more complex the application would be, the lower the adoption rate there would be. So these are actually the latest designs that will be out in a couple of weeks. Basically, what the functionality enables you is the ability to draw. With the Q1 release, we are also adding the option to use the ability to use the predefined arrows. So if you want the instruction to be more precise, also you have the option to choose from the palette of colors. You have the undo option, and obviously the mute option, the remote flashlight, and the ability to add notes during or after the call. So what can you expect in Q1? It will be the full Android support, the predefined arrows, the UI improvements, and also what we are working on is RealWare, so visual digital workflows together with remote video calls. Now I'd like to show you a live demo of Houston. It will be still in the testing environment. You can see my screen. So this is my iPad, and I'm an expert, and I'm expecting a call from a field worker who is in trouble. So I get a notification. I accept it. Let me mute the mic. Okay. So before any instructions should start, it's good to map the AR scene as properly as possible, because then the drawings are much more precise. So we are doing it by moving the device to the front and to the back and to the sides. And now the remote expert can guide the technician. So the way it's done, we click on the little icon in the bottom right corner, and I can select from a palette of colors. Let's say I choose the yellow one. And now I have the pencil icon, so I'm able to draw. So let me draw. So as you can see, I'm moving the device and the AR annotation is staying on the object. And now let me change the color again and use the predefined arrows. This is something that's not live yet, so I point my finger to where I want the arrow to direct. And again, I move the device and it sticks to the object. So that's basically it for the demo. And after I finish the call, both parties, as I mentioned, fill in the phone call entity form. So I already had the data from the backend. So who actually called me? I can fill in the subject. So it was the picture issue. I have my date, the time, the duration in minutes. It was an incoming call and some other description. So I save it and it's added into the phone call list right here. So let me now go back into the presentation. Right here. Let me also show you a quick demo from the perspective of the field worker. So I'm going into the questionnaire form. I click on the hamburger icon. I select from the list of experts, and after mapping the scene, I'm getting the instructions. So again, the expert can change colors. You can even draw some textual instructions. You can use the undo option. And again, once I'm moving the device, the drawing should stick to the object. And this is the last example. So visual instruction, then the worker follows them, and he solves the problem. Now, why did we bring Resco Houston on board? Well, what we are trying to do is we want companies to be able to equip their workers with the best software, hardware, and knowledge. By software, we mean our current or future applications. By hardware, we mean either the standard devices we support or the wearables. And by knowledge, we mean Resco Houston or instructions in form of inspections. So we are basically giving companies the building blocks consisting of hardware, software, and knowledge to build the smart workers of their own. So it can be a combination of standard devices, such as tablet and mobile, wearables, such as RealWear, our applications, and the knowledge represented in Houston or instructions. But Resco Houston as an AR video call mainly focuses on solving the problems right away. But we also wanted to prevent these problems or issues. So we decided to develop a Resco Houston smart application, or what we call knowledge application. And basically the aim is to capture, store, and share the company's tribal knowledge to increase productivity, efficiency of the workers, and to prevent future issues. So what's the difference between Houston calls and Houston application? Let me demonstrate it on an example of this scheme. So basically Houston AR video calls, the typical scenario is that a worker comes to a problem, he reaches out the remote expert, he gives him guidance, and he continues throughout his day. The same happens when worker B comes to a problem, he follows the same path. What we wanted to do with Resco Houston product was to have a combination of the standard knowledge sharing or the centralized knowledge sharing, where the knowledge manager would produce various kinds of materials such as PDFs, videos, or step-by-step guides, and would distribute them digitally to the workers in the form of the application. So it would enable them the form of self-instruction. And if this tier of support doesn't help, then to contact the expert, so that the expert is safe for the most complex issues. So this by itself is quite a unique solution. We haven't found anything similar on the market that would have this combination. But still we wanted to take it a bit further, because it still wouldn't facilitate the sharing of the knowledge between these workers. So we want to add that as well. And also it wouldn't prevent the tribal knowledge to leave the company once the senior worker retires. So we want to collect this knowledge. So basically this flow would enable like the overall knowledge flow within the organization, and the consequence would be obviously the better productivity of the workers, but the continuous learning and continuous improvement of these workers, and consequently the issue prevention. So what's the uniqueness? Well, basically in one application you would have all forms of knowledge sharing. So those would be the instructions or the dynamic workflows, the step-by-step guides, so very visual aids, videos, PDFs, and again, if this doesn't help, then the AR video calls in a combination with chat in a later stage. We also don't want to only store and share the knowledge, but also to capture it from the field. And we also don't want to just to solve the issues, but to prevent them. And we also want to enable in a later stage external user access. So the customers or clients could productize or monetize the application and sell it to their customers as a form of service. Now, let me change my screen again and show you the mobile user flow. And here is the prototype. So basically, these are just clickable wires or prototype of what we have currently developed the concept. So it's not final design. So basically, the frontline worker would land into what we call the company newsfeed, or it can be a factory newsfeed. So he would know what are the latest materials produced, what are the latest updates, maybe some new guidelines, and also what were the problems that his coworkers were solving, and maybe to learn from them as well. If he comes up to an issue, usually the first step is to identify the product that the issue is related to. So he would go into the product section, And he could either scan a QR code on a machine to identify the product, or he could do search or filter, or he could select the product from the list. Then he would get into the product detail, or what we call the product card, where he would find all the necessary information about the product. So the product gallery, product specifications, and the relevant library for the product. So these can be PDFs, instructions, videos, step-by-step guides. And again, if this doesn't help, then the list of experts. So let me show you how, for example, a PDF would look like. So he would go into the intro, open the PDF, follow the instructions. He could also get feedback, so that will be collected in the backend to keep the materials always relevant. Then the videos, again, video and the ability to comment or rate the material. And step-by-step guides. So very visual aids, image, name of the step to see how much through the process I am, and maybe some tips and security warnings as well. And if this doesn't help, then the ability to contact the expert who are specialized for this particular product. So I would connect with the expert. If my problem is not related to a product, I can go to guidelines and find materials there, or I can go to the list of experts and initiate the call from this list of experts as well. I will also be able to go through notification section to find out the latest updates as well. So that's all from me. I'll go back to the presentation, and I'll shortly hand my word over to Andrew, who will talk about the pricing for Resco Houston. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know or send us an email, and we would be really glad if we would be part of this product creation so that the product fits the use cases and the problems that your customers or clients might be having. So thank you very much, and over to Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Susanna. I hope everyone can hear me. So I remember when we were initially presenting or talking about Resco Houston, the AR video call feature, that there were some initial questions around pricing. So we know that there are other solutions on the market, namely Remote Assist from Microsoft, and it has a pretty costly license without much flexibility. So while we're still defining the exact pricing model, we have some initial thoughts how we want to do it and what the cost to the customer would look like. So the first one would be to create some kind of consumption package or packages, right? Basic, middle, high, and custom based on the hours of video calls available for an expert per month, right? So maybe two interesting things here is that first is that the expert, so the one receiving the call and helping remotely to solve a problem, is the one who needs a license. The other users aren't charged a license for this service or this feature. And the second is that we allow your customers to buy certain packages of hours, and that way keep the costs lower so that they don't have to commit to the highest price and that kind of consumption level. Susanna, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So the other option is not based on packages, but pay as you go. Again, this is us trying to deliver advantageous pricing to your customers and to you as our partner. In this scenario, the customer expert has some kind of prepaid, let's say 20 hours per month. As they use those hours, it's fine. It's drawn down from their 20 hours, and then they have the ability to purchase other additional hours as needed. So kind of a different approach, offers maybe a little bit more flexibility, again, advantageous pricing. So we're still working on this, but very interested to hear your feedback and whether this would be appealing to your customers, especially compared to the cost of Remote Assist from Microsoft, which is, as far as I understand it, it's per user per month, and it's just a software as a service license without any flexibility. So I think we would love to hear feedback on these pricing ideas after this meeting. But that's all from my side. I think I'll pass the word over to Simona to conclude the meeting. We have about a few minutes left for any kind of questions, and I'll give the word over to Simona. Thank you, everyone.